So the guidelines for our event today are going to be a little bit different from what we usually do, because I want you guys to really focus in on what each other is saying. The first guideline is be curious to understand and listen well. I love active listening. Show respect and suspend judgment. And by that, I mean, let's say, for example, John is saying something, or Bob is saying something, or Maya is saying something, or Kenneth is saying something, and you want to interrupt and crosstalk. That won't be necessary today. I don't think it's necessary at any time, and I'm pretty guilty of that sometimes too, unfortunately. I want you to also note any common ground as well as differences when each person is talking. Be authentic and welcome that from others as well. Be purposeful and to the point. You're going to own your part of the conversation and you're going to guide your part of the conversation, because we can't do that we can only do that for ourselves. Okay. Now, the bottom line is one person talks at a time, and I'm going to ask everyone to stay on mute. To begin this discussion today, I would like to, for you guys, this is where your dictation comes in. There are 3 points, and you're only going to be responsible for answering one. So when I'm reading these, if you want to just jot down only the one you're going to respond to, that's fine, and you won't have to write down all 3. But here we go. Here's point number 1. What are your hopes and concerns for your family, community, and the country? What would your best friend say about who you are? What sense of purpose, mission, duty guides you in your life? I'll repeat those. What are your hopes and concerns for your family, community, and the country, or the country? What would your best friend say about who you are? What sense of purpose, mission, or duty guides you in your life? That's the first point of discussion. And this is simply about getting to know each other. So who would like to begin? And you only have 1 to 2 minutes to respond. Okay, Bob, you're muted. You get unmute.
Okay. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. My mission and purpose in life is to use my time on this planet to contribute something significantly useful and valuable to the world. What I leave behind is what's important to me. Um, I I, uh, I was raised as a Christian with all those ideas about heaven and earth and hell and all that stuff. And I, at this point in my life, I'm not counting on any of that. I'm counting on what I leave behind and what I've done here with the time I have, and how useful and contributing that work is. That's my purpose in life.
Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate that comment. Who'd like to go next? Please.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'm with the first one. My concerns for my family, friends, community, and the country as a whole is that with safety. Safety is very important. Freedom of speech is very important. Not freedom of speech that would lead to riots and danger, but freedom of speech that will lead to truth and development and growth. My concern for this country, my concern is for prosperity and safety for all, for my family, friends, community, and country.
Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate that. So John Amaya. Okay, John.
I chose the sense of purpose or duty that guides me in my life, and I guess I wrote down 3 words, and it is a passion for justice, and that can be in any arena. I don't have a particular focus, but it can be climate, it could be human relations, it could be war and peace, it could be the downtrodden and poor and hunger, etc. So justice wherever it shows itself or injustice shows itself. I want to be active. I'm not a contemplative. And when people do anything in contemplation, they take about 2 minutes, and I'm thinking, all right, what else are we going to do? Because that doesn't do it with me. Short prayer maybe, but nothing contemplation. It doesn't touch me in any way. I've got to be active. And frankly, faith drives me a lot. Not say drives me, but I do it in an umbrella of faith. That I'm a Catholic doesn't mean I couldn't actually switch religions if I feel some of the Catholic Church is so far out and gone. But I believe in Jesus, and I believe in hell, heaven and hell, heaven more than hell, I guess. But I definitely look at that in some of the statements in his life that he led, and where was he most active? The poor, the downtrodden, people that had no voice, and he wasn't afraid to break rules. And so that guides me a lot in my background thinking.
Thanks, John. Okay, Maya, Kenneth. Okay, take it away, Maya.
Yeah, Suzanne really actually inspired me with what she was talking about and her concerns. And mine are the same. I've been thinking a lot lately. I've been working really hard lately. And I've been thinking a lot lately, and apologies, I'm having an emotional day, but I've been thinking a lot about how people spend their time and how a lot of us are kind of forced to spend our time working in the system, having to make money, and living in a city where there are so many people. We've had -30, -15 degree days here, and there's a certain unhoused gentleman that I see on a regular basis who lives in my neighborhood. I haven't seen him for several days. I just saw him for the first time when we had that really small warm up, Miss Evelyn, and I'm sitting in my relative comfort, and I'm just thinking about all of these things that we have to do, and we shouldn't. There's so much wealth in the world, and there's so many people in need that don't have to be. And there's so many folks who just have so much, and they're holding it so tightly. So sorry to get really emotional with everyone, but that's the safety and the comfort of my family and my community. That's what drives me.
I'm not going to talk after that comment because I can't. Take it away, Kenneth. Thank you, Maya.
It seems like there's a lot of concerns. It seems like humanity's doing some very damaging things. I am concerned that AI becomes self-aware and that we are rushing into a situation that's going to be very, very detrimental to humanity. I am concerned about the upcoming election. I've heard, or was watching some of the Sunday news shows today. They said that 66% of the people going into the caucuses, of the people that they interviewed on their way into caucus, believe that the prior election was stolen, and that President Biden is not the duly elected president in a fair election. That's kind of astonishing given the facts in the matter. Just the overall ability to ignore basic reality, not to be grounded at all. To end on a slight hopeful note, one of the spokespersons for President Biden's campaign said that the racial wealth disparity is lower than it's ever been in history. So I take a little bit of hope in that. There's still vast room for improvement in that regard, but that's something slightly hopeful that I'm glad to hear.
Thank you, Kenneth. Well, I'm going to choose point number 2. What would your best friend say about who you are? And I think she would say, my best friend lives in Austin, and we've been friends for years. I think she would say that I am unrelenting in my faith. I do everything based on my faith. But coupled with that, though, I'm really people focused. I have a great concern, like Maya, about people who are disenfranchised. And I always try to find a way to not just talk about it, but to be proactive in it. And so, just like coming up this Tuesday, I have an opportunity through my grandson to actually teach ESL to a couple that have very limited English, and I could just be talking about them and say, you know what, they're new in the neighborhood, blah, 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 but that's not I can't do that. I have been blessed with the ability, I have the TOEFL certification, and I'm just sitting on it. And so I wanted to have like a large group, but then it's almost like these folks came to my presence through my grandson. I'm thinking that's the large group. It's 2 people that don't speak English. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I think my best friend would say that that's the way I have always lived. If someone needs clothes, blankets, a mattress, we've done that through our church. Just if you have the extra, give it. And so I think that's what she would say about me. I'm going to move on now to the next point. I think I just saw Charlotte come in. And Charlotte, if you can remain on mute, we're already starting. And so we won't go back to the next point.
I'm muting now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So I hope you guys have heard of the film, The Reunited States, that was done by Van Jones and Megan McCain. And maybe you've heard of it. I think of maybe like a year and a half or so ago. But I want to jump now to the motto of the United States, which I believe you guys are probably familiar with. And I'm going to do my best to pronounce these Italian words. E pluribus unum. It means out of many, one. Our nation has blended cultures, beliefs, as we've heard today, and people from across the world. In recent years, it is our divisions and not our one that have taken center stage in our politics, our communities, and the media. The United States highlights individuals' efforts to rewrite the narrative of division into a one of reunification. And that's why we're kind of going to be focusing on reunification today, right where you are in your neighborhoods. And this conversation today invites you to add your voice, as you have already done, to this shared American story and explore ways you can build understanding with your neighbors and your fellow citizens right where you are. We are all part of the many. And I think it's time that we work together to become the one. So at this time, we'll just have conversation. I won't put you through the dictation process right now, maybe not even later. But in the film that I just mentioned, one of the writers, her name is Erin Leverton, she asked her dinner guests this question: what is your American story? That's the question I pose to you. What is your American story? How would you answer that question? No more than 1 to 2 minutes for this response. What is your American story? Okay, John.
I guess the accountant math person in me likes to think chronologically, so that's the way I'm going to describe it. And that really is, I'm very aware of my roots from Lithuanian immigrants. And even though I don't speak Lithuanian, the Lithuanian culture was there when I was growing up. My parents and grandparents spoke it. We ate foods that were specific to Lithuania, etc. And so that story, I know their general past is either peasant or manual labor. As I've grown older, I also see that story as that story was one of immigration during lucky times when the rules weren't very tight. And they just basically had to say, I have a place to go and that's it. And so that story then's evolved where I became the first college person in my family. And that became interesting because the pressures of wanting to, quote, make money. My parents felt that was so important to make money versus necessarily to do good. And that was money exceeded the philanthropy part of a profession. And so my stories evolved from there. And I think as I've grown, the justice component I mentioned earlier has really expanded. And so I look now back on that lens and say, think of immigration, and all of these people that are coming are the same as my Lithuanian roots. And are they 100% the same? No. But are they mostly the same? Yes. They came seeking a better existence or in fear of a draft from the Russian army or whatever it was. And so we need to treat them hospitably and expand that hospitality, not just to immigrants, but as I was saying, anybody that's in need. And so it shouldn't just be because I went to college, or you have to go to college, or you have to do this. Life's events happen, and we need to expand it to everybody that needs it.
Thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your American story?
That I can tell some things, I guess. I feel free as an African American. I do feel free, but there are certain things that you know that you have to be careful about when you're in public. You have to look around to see who's there because you don't know what a person is going to do to you if you're there by yourself. Example is that I work for a school district where I retired from, and I had just started working for the school district. There was no place for us to have lunch. So I would take my car across the street, which was a senior citizen community. And you see what color hair I got if you see me at the summit. And I would sit there and I would have my alarm set on my phone and I would read, have my lunch and read. I'm sitting there in the parking lot, and that one of my coworkers that had been there for years was also a couple of aisles away from me. I was surprised that he was there, but I guess he did the same thing. And white, okay. And this police officer came over to me to ask me why I was there. Now, if I had been a police officer, just the fact that I had gray hair, I wouldn't have bothered me because it's a senior citizen place. I'm at 90% gray. But I looked at her and I said, I work right across the street from over here, and I came over and said to have my lunch and to read after I had my lunch because I have an hour lunch. In the midst of me talking to her, my alarm went off. And I said, I'm sorry, I have to go. I said, if you want to find me, I said, I told her who my director of my program is. I said, you can call her and she can verify who I am, but I have to go back to work now. Now, my thing is that all these, and the thing about it is other people had come after me and was pretty much doing the same thing. But the only person she approached was me, because I guess if you looked at the color scheme of it, I was the only one that had this shade for everlasting shade. And so that's the only reason she could have possibly came up to me. I don't know what she thought I was doing. It was obvious I had a book in my hand. It was obvious I had my finished eating dessert food there. But it's just that you have to, and it's sad. And I'm 76 years old, but I still have to look around and make sure I'm in a secure environment.
Thank you for sharing that story, Charlotte. I resonate, unfortunately. Yeah. Who would like to share next? What is your American story? And we're going to keep this to 2 minutes or less.
My American story is one that I must always continue to strive and pursue the American dream in spite of. I'm descended from enslaved people. The earliest ancestor I've been able to find was born here in Virginia in 1810. So we've been here 214 years. And my people have come out of slavery. They've owned land. They've become educated. My dad had his dream deferred of going to medical school. It was deferred, but he yet became a clinical psychologist and raised us. I'm a teacher. I've raised children that are engineers, college students, and activists. And I must continue to strive and care about our safety, because no matter how much we achieve, no matter how decent we have been, how blessed God has allowed us to be, our safety and well-being is always on the line. Our rights are always on the line. So that is my American story. I must always continue to strive against the odds and teach my descendants to strive against the odds as well.
Thank you. I think I saw your hand next, Bob.
Yeah, my story is one of growing up in a very blue collar family, large families on both my mother and my father's side, lots of cousins, lots of relatives, all working class white folks who knew nothing about, well, they never talked about Black experience in this country. They stopped any conversation about it, didn't want it talked about. I grew up innocently thinking that the 50s were just the greatest time in the world. For me personally, it was, but now I know the reality of what a lot of people in this country did not enjoy. And I was the first one to go to college in that whole huge family, and I ended up with an experience living in a poverty neighborhood in New York City for a couple of years, where I got a real education about the realities of this country and the racism and the poverty realities of it. And it's certainly changed the course of my life over time, and still does influence an awful lot of who I am and what I do.
Thank you. Kenneth or John, would you like to share? If not, we'll move on to the next question. The next question is, where are you seeing problematic divisions in this nation, and which ones most impact your life? You kind of have already alluded to this, or which one would you be most likely to try to bridge?
I can speak to that,
Maya?
Miss Evelyn.
Okay.
So in my professional work, I'm a resource management professional, which essentially means that there's a bunch of people who are hired into a company, and we have roles for them to play, and I get the fun task of kind of helping them find those roles. Along with that, I am also a part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So another cool part of my role is I try to get to figure out ways to educate people, or maybe try to help them understand experiences that are unlike their own. But the company that I work for is multinational. It's huge. So sometimes those initiatives kind of get lost in the talking, not acting. But there's also this, I think, hesitancy of folks to take DEI seriously because of what they're hearing in the news, because of what they're hearing about CRT, because they're hearing that, DEI is actually racist. So there's a like a natural bridge that I want to build, and just educating people and opening up doors for them. But there's constantly rock falls that are kind of preventing us from being able to traverse the bridge. So I think that's what I'm concerned about, because DEI has a place and it has a purpose, especially in corporate culture. But there's, just kind of like anti-racist, or progressive actions. We're at this like fulcrum point. And I think it's getting harder for people to even just take it seriously. So yeah,
that's a tough one. Okay, so I'll ask that question one more time. Where are you seeing problematic divisions and which ones most impact your life? And which would you most likely try to bridge?
Um, well, I'm seeing divisions in these laws that are being proposed. If nobody's aware, and it affects me as an African American, just as an African American person of color. In Florida, there's a law the second time around they're trying where they're going to make it a crime or where you could be sued if you say that your employer is racist or you call people out on their racist behavior, whether it's something, something they say. Also, they're making it against the law. They want to make it against the law, even for you to accuse them of homophobia or transphobia. That affects me greatly because to me that's just Jim Crow 2.0. Because that's saying I could say whatever I want to say about you to you, and you got to prove that it was malicious intent. See, that's just shutting down. That's just going backwards. It's cementing white supremacy. It's reintroducing Jim Crow. And it's sad because all of this stuff is just it's destruction to the American society. It's stunting growth. Where I can help is just just in literature, people being open-minded. Of course, me being a teacher, we down here in Atlanta are also under CRT guidelines. But I do have students that come up to me after class and say, Miss Parker, I'm reading this book, I'm reading that book. And they just share it with me. I don't ask, they share it. And I tell them that's why it's so important to read so that you can have different opinions and you can make inferences. I said to the student, continue to read, continue to grow. And this is a child of white and Hispanic background that's always talking about what she's reading. And we do have one book, one school. So I always say to the kids, take reading seriously, embrace, learn. So that's how we can bridge these kind of laws that are coming up online.
Thank you. Hi, Lena, and welcome. We're just in the middle of a discussion. And the question was, what are you seeing problematic? Where are you seeing problematic divisions? And which one most impact your life? Or which one would you be most likely to try to bridge? That's the question on the floor at the moment. If Kenneth, does anyone else want to comment on that question?
I would. I'm sorry I
Okay.
talk a lot.
Okay.
There's two things. I guess I'm in California. There was two different laws that they passed here in California. One was I'm not a cigarette smoker, but supposedly the minority group of people, which is African Americans and probably Mexican Americans, I don't know, smoke menthol cigarettes, the flavored cigarettes. I don't know either because I think I've smoked one in my life and peer pressure. But they passed a law here in California that it was if you were caught smoking menthol, we're not talking about marijuana because that's legal here. Menthol type cigarettes, and you could be prosecuted for a crime. So basically, since they make marijuana legal, I guess they decided they add something so most people smoke menthol, so they can still lock you up for that because you broke a law. Now, one of the benefit laws that they passed here in California, I guess people who look like us were getting, I guess, harassed for their hair, the braids and the hairstyle. And they actually passed a law that they couldn't do that. That was against the law. So in other words, African Americans wear their braids. So they zinged us with one, which not doesn't relate to me, but then they did. So maybe it balanced it out. Maybe they think they balance it out because you can wear your braids, but you can't smoke the cigarettes or you go to jail. So anyway, that's California rule. That's it. I'm through.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Charlotte. Anyone else? Okay, John.
I see division in so many spots that it does concern me. I mean, voting rules, some of the things that Suzanne talked about with the shutdown of people of diverse sexuality, anything with race. But I can say another one that I feel is so important is climate, because if we don't handle climate change, we will be irrevocably damaged. If the South Pole and North Pole melt, you're not putting them back together if 10 years later you figured out that you should have put them and dealt with it. So some of these other things maybe can be retroactively remedied, but that's one that I'm afraid of will not be able to be retroactively remedied. And so while it's kind of this abstract in a sense, and you see real effects of it, that's the one I'm most fearful of, because I'm fear of it. If we hit a tipping point, you're not going back. And that means more migration, less food, more damage to the environment, etc. So that's one that really concerns me and doesn't necessarily pop out right away. But as I have been more involved in the climate crisis, it's caught my attention more.
Thank you guys for sharing that. I'm going to jump in just at the tail end of this particular question. And where I see problematic divisions and is in our style of communication across the board. We don't talk enough. You know, I just remember growing up as a kid, there was so much talking. It actually made me tired as a kid because I'm thinking I'm an introvert, you know, just by design. And I'm thinking, I don't want to hear any more words. I want y'all to stop talking. But that's how we learned, and stories were shared, information was shared. Decisions were made. I just remember when people got ready to vote, you know, that was during the time that everybody had to plan to vote, prepare to vote. They talked about it. We're going to meet here. We're going to meet there. And all of that now in retrospect, I appreciate. And that's why today, when I decide to do this particular lesson, I'm thinking, no chat, please. Let's just talk and really listen to each other's stories and support that information. And I think also I grew up not hearing a lot of bashing of the other people. I just did not grow up that way. I grew up hearing support for Maya, for Suzanne, for John, for Bob, for Kenneth, for Charlotte. That's how I grew up. And to hear sometimes we bash each other. And I don't do well with that. So I think for me, one person at a time, like this event today, is my way of saying I can do something to make a difference here. I can bridge that gap if it's just a one-time thing. I'm going to leave this meeting today feeling like, you know what, I did it because we took time to hear each other's stories and there was no bashing. Your stories are your stories, no bashing, no crosstalk. I can't tell Maya, don't cry. I can't tell Suzanne, oh no, I don't believe that. That's ridiculous. We've got to hear and accept and support. So that's where I would start the bridging. And my other point is, I think we've got to be, I have got to be more proactive and really getting people registered to vote and making sure they get there. And it cannot be a one-time thing. It's got to be from January to December every single year. And so I strive to do that. Apart from the groups that I'm with, that's my goal. Because if we don't have, if people don't vote, we can forget about any changes at all because it's going to happen there. So that's where I stand. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next point. In this film, Susan Bro, you guys might remember her. Her daughter was Heather Hires, and she was killed in Charlottesville in 2017. And she refers to reunification as a heart movement, not a political movement. And when you hear that, what is your heart telling you? Reunification is a heart movement, not politics. And I want to encourage you guys to, this is going to be your call to action, is to really, if you have a chance to watch that movie. And you guys have already spoken a lot today, but let's just kind of bring it to reality. What is your heart telling you?
I just have a question. Can you give me the name of the movie again? Because I haven't seen it. United what?
The Reunited States.
United States?
The Reunited States. Van Jones and Meghan McCain.
Okay. Where can we find it? It's on Netflix?
look on, if you go to YouTube, I purposely not did this too. I almost gave you guys all the details. I'm thinking, no, I want them to really deep dive into this for themselves. Go to YouTube and look for it, and then you should be led to where you can watch it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So what is your heart telling you about the word reunification? You've already alluded to a lot of this in your stories so far.
It's gonna have to be about, for me, it's gonna have to be about love and respect. See, because and it is, Dr. King did say this, that hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. When I talk about love, love encompasses respect. Love encompasses listening to one another, respecting one another. Just because Maya was crying does not mean that her feelings were not valid. Her feelings are valid. Even though I may not have been moved to tears for myself, I felt her pain. You see, so we're gonna. So what the heart movement means to me is love, and what does love mean? Respecting one another, listening to one another, caring. That's what it means to me. And the reunification of the United States has to be about that. That it has to be about that. That's what it means to me.
Ditto on that, sister. I agree. Okay, anyone else? What is your heart telling you?
I, I have a negative. I'm sorry. I'm always talking. I have a negative thing about that. How can you teach um reunification when you have the people that are in power and their followers are, which are majority of the world is listening to,
Okay,
is teaching
I'm going to
separatism.
Charlotte. I'm going to interrupt you on that comment,
Hmm.
but kindly so, because it's not about the other people that you're sharing this information. It's about what can you do. So
Okay.
let's get back to the question here. What is your heart telling you? Not about other people, but what is it telling you about you? That's the question.
It probably tells me I need to work harder towards it.
Yeah.
I never thought of myself as being, you know, away from that because I've, in my whole span, every job or educational system that I've been in, I've always kind of been like one of maybe the only or one of a few. So I never thought about the fact that I'm not doing that because I look at people at, which I'll give you an example. One of the kids I work with, adopted mother was Asian, and I never, for some reason, I must didn't see her a day. I said, no, she's not. Yes, she is. I said, no, she's not. And he said, her son just said she is. So I look at people based on the way they are, their character. I don't look at people as the color of their skin. So I never really thought I had a problem with reunifying or in my situation because all the my surroundings has been not, well, majority is non-African American. I've been around African Americans, but I've been my education and I went for the jobs that I had. It's usually just me.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Charlotte. Anyone else want to share on the a perspective on that? A part of your story on that?
I'll say something. This is Lena.
Okay. Hi,
um,
Dina.
I'm in Virginia. I've been here pretty much my whole life. One year I went to Raleigh for school, but I ended up still coming back to my roots in Virginia. And I would probably almost label myself as the black sheep of my family because again, similar to what Charlotte has said, not that I don't see color, I just don't give it like 2 seconds. I'm initially I'm looking for somebody to return a smile back to me. I'm more turned off if somebody has like a grumpy, angry face looking back at me. But if I smile and that person smile, I'm like, oh, I'm one step closer. We can move forward, even from a child, even though like in my up in like from kindergarten up into half of my seventh grade year, I was in the city schools, predominantly black teachers, black classmates. We moved to the county, Chesterfield County after that. completely opposite, predominantly white teachers, predominantly white classmates. And again, my very close friends that I have today, one is from Dominican Republic, and two are white young ladies. But again, over these past 3 years, we have been talking and hanging out and going to each other's church services or backyard barbecues or birthday parties. And so, like, again, I agree with Charlotte when like it's love. And again, with me being a Christian, I believe that God is love. Love is kind. So above all, be kind, be considerate, be respectful of one another. Now again, when everything did go down in Charlottesville, it was almost like it was it was hard for me to really come to grips and to understand that something that crazy, that awful happened like 45 minutes away from me, blew my mind. But again, we also reflect on all the campus shootings at Virginia Tech, the one in Charlottesville, very close to UVA. And again, like knowing the history that's steeped in the soil here is can really be mind blowing. But again, me personally, even like what I've taught my children, you know, it doesn't matter what anybody looks like on the outside. You do have to get to know people. And again, with me being a former preschool teacher as well, children don't go around saying, "Oh, I'm not going to play with you at 2 years old," or toddler age, "I'm not going to play with you," or "You can't sit beside me." It's not until somebody teaches them that, because again, we had all the children would play together. It's a beautiful thing. And again, I often remind folks, if you take a step back and go, if you can volunteer with young children, see they don't have that malice in their eye. They don't have that hatred programmed into them from birth. Is later taught. So again, I'm always a firm believer. Teach them when they're young. Remind them. You know, read the story, sing the song. Um, because again, yeah, just like you said, Miss Evelyn, we don't talk. We're texting. The social skills are out the window, and even this, improving my own social skills, helping my children with their social skills. It's definitely not going to be something that's going to be remedied overnight. But again, we can't stop, because if we stop, I can't even imagine how the world will look, from Virginia to California to Africa to anywhere else. But like again, you have to realize that there is the issue, and that yes, even you, wherever you are, where you work, where you go to church, where you buy your groceries for, every non-smile that you don't give, every smile that you get, the respect of just looking someone straight on, not staring at the floor, just being responsive and just treating each other as humans first and primarily is most important.
Thank you, Lena. That's powerful. Thank you so much. Maya.
I I think what I'm hearing from folks, and like it is a heart movement, and I think President Biden did touch on this too, and when he was being inaugurated, and that we are in a fight for the soul of the nation. But to your point at the beginning of this, Miss Evelyn, all is one, right? So we're in the fight for the soul of America, right? Our collective souls. And I think that goes back to helping folks understand the ways that they've been trapped by the system is also the reason that they feel unable to change the system. And that's, I think, spiritually and emotionally, that's how you get folks dug out of the hole that they're in. So I think that it's not political change that we need. We need emotional change. We need spiritual change, however that looks for the individual.
Thank you. Okay, I mean, we're what time is it here? We have about 10 minutes. But I'm going to move on to the next question. And again, what I'm hearing is that you guys are responding to a lot of the your stories are including some of the questions I've not asked yet. Um, this is an individual question. And I know it's easy sometimes for all of us to look at other people for our responses. And that's not where we need to start. We need to start in self-reflection of what we can do. So I'll start this. I'll ask it this way. What are some of your experiences in this kind of work? And maybe according to what Maya said, we haven't had those experiences. But what are some, if you have, what are some of your experiences in this kind of work? And what would you like to see happen moving forward? If you would like to see something moving forward, what are you willing to do also?
What do you mean by work, Evelyn? I mean, that was a broad term.
Yeah, it is. Let's say, for example, you're talking about the climate change, John, and I know some stuff that you do, but I'll ask it anyway. If you think that is an issue, what more can you do to inform people? And it's the same with me. I am just really tied to the Voting Rights Act. What more can I do to inform people? So I'll ask that question again. If you've had experiences, and I've had experience with helping people register to vote in this kind of work, what would you like to see happen? What I'd like to see happen moving forward, and you too. I would like to see. I'll respond. I would like to see me become more proactive, and not just. I know where all these links are online to make it easier for people to vote, because a lot of folks are not going to register to vote for whatever reason. And so it's up to me. I've got this circle of people in my life. It's up to me to share that link with them. It's up to me to sit there and walk through that process with them if there's any apprehension. It's up to me to say, okay, according to the link that you signed up under, they're going to remind you when there's an election in your area. But is it okay if I remind you too? That's up to me. I don't have to ask you guys to do that for my group of people. But I would encourage you, though, to do it for your group of people if voting rights is your a cup of tea. So whatever your area is, whatever your experience base is, I think we have a reciprocal responsibility to help other people because we already have that knowledge. So what can we do? I don't want you guys to leave here today and say we had a discussion on these are the United States. This is our moment in history to really do something about it in our area. I'm not asking you to do it like across the United States, but I believe there's four of us in Illinois. Kenneth is in Texas, Charlotte's in California, and Suzanne's in Georgia. Look at those states represented right there. We can make a difference. And not only that, you know so many people that you can share this story with, and you can ask the same questions. Be powerful right where you are.
I'm about voting rights too. So that's what I will continue to do. I'm becoming, back online when Move On and A Color of Change comes back online, getting people out to vote, texting, just talking at work. See, that's how democracy is saved, by talking about it. And that's what I do. Even though when I was at dinner with my son and my daughter-in-law last night, and no, I wasn't going to talk about politics at a birthday party, a birthday dinner, but I was talking about how cold it was in Atlanta last night, like 22 degrees. And I said, yeah, it was cold like that in Iowa, colder than this. I can't even imagine. And my son said, Mom, let's not talk about politics. I said, I'm not. But I said to my husband this morning, I said, no, I'm going to talk to him because he has to understand that what happens in the election is going to touch his life. And he's had a comfortable life, 28 years of comfortable life. He has to understand the ramifications. That nothing is written in stone. So that's where my concern is, talking to people. And we do have small talk, being educators at work. We do talk about it. So talking is how you save democracy. Then getting people out to vote. That's where I'm going to be active.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't want to keep you guys over time.
Yes, this is Lena again.
Okay.
I personally, I just made a video and put it on TikTok. I want to say yesterday to remind folks that early voting for the primary it started. It started on Friday, so I was able, as I was rolling in from my van to come back in the house, because I also went to a celebration of life, which I am. I'm constantly talking with my girlfriends because again, those are my inner circle, my girlfriends, my family. I know my nieces and nephews are probably definitely going to be like, oh, here comes Auntie Lena again talking about making sure we register. But hey, just like when I went to the summit in Georgia, that's what I heard. I got to engage the people who live under the same roof with me, though my family members, everything. So again, they gonna hear it loud and proud definitely this year. And again, what I Lena also do, I show up. So any opportunity I can volunteer. Like there's an art center that was recently opened maybe like 2 years ago. I volunteered. So if they never see another Black woman with dreadlocks in a power wheelchair on a ventilator, when they come and see their little plays or their musical performances, I'm there scanning their tickets. I'm wishing them to have enjoyment in whatever performance that they're seeing. So I volunteered. Tomorrow, we're having a happy hour before our Democracy Day on Tuesday, which I already have my transportation set up. This is my first time participating with a lobby day at our General Assembly. So I'm going to show up. I'm going to be present. I'm going to speak my mind, and I'm going to encourage everybody around me also to do the same. So I'm going to go back into my other groups online and be like, hey, just because you are wheelchair bound, just because you're at home, you still have a voice and you can still use it. So that's what Lena's doing. So y'all wish me well this week. And I say happy and healthy and have a wonderful birthday because, yes, this week I'm celebrating by advocating and getting out the house and doing everything I can this year.
And her birthday's on Thursday, the 25th.
Yes. So, yes, but yeah, that's what
Happy early birthday.
Thank you, thank you. That's what I'm doing. And
I'm breaking
especially
protocol, Lena, but you are my motivation. I am so inspired by you. I've told you this before. I just, oh my gosh, you are just so inspiring. You get out there and you get it done. So
and that's
really,
that's what I want to do. I don't want to say that any day, oh, I just didn't want to do it. No, I get to do it. I get to, I get to worship with my coworkers when I'm able, well, my other church family when I'm able to go out to church. So like again, I don't want people to say, "Oh, I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm too that." I'm like, okay, no, keep on going because you still haven't hit any of the boxes that I face every day when I make a decision that I'm going to do something. So there's no need to do nothing because everybody can do something. So that's it.
thank you, Lena. Thank you
Miss
so
You're
much.
welcome.
Evelyn.
So I
Could
think
you, I see
Kenneth,
Kenneth here.
Kenneth has his hand up. Let me respond to
Okay,
Kenneth.
good. Correct.
Okay. Take it
Okay.
away, Kenneth.
Yeah, there's something that we used to do in our neighborhood prior to COVID, was we would have neighborhood dinners, just invite people from the nearest homes. We'd have probably 8 or 10 homes representing the families from those homes. And it was a way to develop community within the neighborhood. And back before COVID, Fort Worth actually had a program where they would reimburse you for the groceries you spent for such a meeting. And I need to check into that and see if that's still something we can do. Another thing that has been very in the news lately because of Gaza and Israel, back in the divisions that regard, back before COVID, there was a horrible massacre in New Zealand of Muslims. And at that time, AOC suggested that you could find a Muslim mosque somewhere and go and show your support. So I looked that up and found that there's one even closer than the church I usually attend to. So I started going over there and attending their services. They've been very cordial and hospitable, and it has been eye-opening in some ways. A few weeks later, there was a meeting in a nearby town encouraging that kind of thing, and one of the speakers there was a Jewish rabbi, and so I thought, well, I'm going to the mosque, maybe I ought to go there. So I started going there, and as soon as COVID hit, I stopped because I certainly didn't want any concern that I was spreading something among those communities. So after the horrible terrorist attack on Israel and the resulting conflict that's been going on, I've started going back to those places. And again, they're very hospitable, very welcoming. And then I did mention still go to church either Saturday evenings or Sundays. And so one of the things that I need to improve on, in addition to the dinners, was I don't recall if it was Move On. It was been kind of quiet because I've been looking through and trying to find this resource. But to my chagrin, as I was looking through my texts in my phone, I noticed that the last time I texted these group, well, I should explain what it is first. It was an effort to build relationships with people in your community, and it identified people within your community who would be perhaps influenceable. And when we do phone banking, one of the complaints we often hear is, well, yeah, I always hear from people right before the election, but then I never hear about from people in between elections. And this was an effort to maintain contact with people and hear their concerns and do like Evelyn is suggesting we do here today, and just listening non-judgmentally and getting more of an understanding of them and where they were coming from. So I'm sorry, I'm probably over 2 minutes. I apologize. But like I said, one of my things of my chagrin was that the last time I had texted these people in that group was November of 2022. So it would have been better if I'd, kept that going last year, and I need to get back with that this year.
So is that something you can reinstate though, Kenneth, and bring it up to today?
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
Now you were saying that it was 2022. Is that something that you're going to try to reestablish the neighborhood?
That's yes, I can.
That's a really good idea. I remember being a part of that in Austin one time. It was just the block though. And you think people, people bring their food and their ideas and non-judgmental. We just laugh and taste and build relationships. That's a great idea. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? Because we're just about, this will probably be the last comment after whoever speaks next. Okay, Bob, are you, I think I see your mouth moving.
I saw Suzanne's got her hand up.
Oh, I don't see it on my screen. There you go. All right, take it away, Suzanne.
Okay, first of all, let me apologize. I didn't mean to break protocol. So I apologize to you and Kenneth. But I do want to say to Lena, I did have the pleasure of meeting her at the summit in Atlanta. In fact, we sat at the same table working on activity together, and she is such an inspiration. We have no excuses. If she can do it and travel all the way from Virginia to Atlanta in her situation, she's still going. There's no excuse for me. So like you, Evelyn, Miss Evelyn, for me, she's also an encourager and a motivator. So God bless you, Lena, and happy birthday.
Okay, so it's 1:03. I can actually take maybe a couple of more short comments before we log off. This has been a fantastic today. I had no expectations or didn't know what to expect, but this has been brilliant. Thank you guys for participating and being here. And the one thing about this kind of discussion, this particular group asked that the discussion be between 4 to 6 people. And I'm thinking, what if 20 people show up? And this is a perfect group today. Just perfect. So thank you for being here. Okay, last comment from Maya.
I'm thinking about this a lot lately too. And I used to have like a really large social media following, and I don't have too many people like in person here in Chicago that I interact with on a regular basis. And yeah, I mean, I reach out to my family. I'm that hound every election, telling them you have to do it and prove it to me. Send me the photos, right? But I have not at all taken advantage of like the social media followings I've created on certain platforms, or like done anything to increase that following so I can have more of a voice as we get closer and closer to the election. So I'm going to do it. That's my action item for myself today. I'm going to continue growing. Quick shout out for Spoutable. If anyone's looking for a platform that's similar to Twitter, but definitely actually policing folks who are harassing others on the platform, I highly recommend checking out spoutable.com for a place where you can generally feel very, very safe. So that's my action item for this election season and the inspiration that you've all provided me today.
Awesome. Can you post this kind of information on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very much like
Awesome.
Twitter. So videos, photos, just text. It's all good.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So as we're about to conclude, probably Charlotte and maybe Kenneth doesn't know, but Maya and Suzanne are members of our events planning team. And Suzanne, they're both working on projects right now. And based on the information I received from Maya this morning, she will be leading our next book club. She's led one before, wonderfully led one before. And so we'll be sharing that with you in the coming days. I'm not real sure when, but before the summer, I think. And Suzanne is working on one, and we'll share that information as it comes up too. But most importantly, though, thank you guys so much for being here and for participating. Your story was shared in segments, and I think that's great. It just reminds me that small stories are as impacting as the long ones that we have to read. And speaking of reading and
Yes.
writing, if you so choose and would like to share more of your story in a more concise format, we do have a website, and I would be glad to post yours as a blog if you want to write it and send it to my email address or the anti-racist email address. It's up to you. It's totally optional, but I think it would just kind of give you an opportunity to mesh your ideas together today, write your story incomplete if you want to. And like I say, email it to the Anti-Racist Jubilee, I'm sorry, Anti-Racist Conversations email, and I'll share it on the website. So once again, we're right at time, 1:07. We're scheduled to be done at 1:15, and we're a little bit early, and that's great. I really would like to hear more about your story, Kenneth, about yours, Lena, Bob and John, and Charlotte, Maya, whatever you're going to be doing, however you would like to share that. I think it would be encouraging to all of us to see what's taking place. If you're going to post on Spoutable, Maya, I would love to know about that, and I'll keep you guys updated on what I'm doing with the links on the voting rights, because people are all across the nation, but they need to vote. So, Charlotte, you
Get
have your
those to
hand.
share too.
Okay,
Yeah.
go.
What book are we working on that I should be getting so I can discuss it at the book club thing?
Okay, Maya.
Charlotte,
I
you
do
can check
have it.
out.
I do have it.
I would say if you want to share I haven't had my
Okay.
chance to buy my copy yet, but yes, The Color of Law is the next book that we're going to be covering on our book club. I believe the target month is going to be April. That was still open, correct, Miss
Okay,
Evelyn?
yes, April and it'll probably take 2 months, April and May.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Take my hand down.
Okay, and we'll share more of those details later. And Maya's led a book club before, and so is Suzanne, and they have impeccable guidelines and syllabuses. So we will be led well for sure. All righty. Well, thank you guys, and have a great afternoon. This has been fantastic. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
participation.
Enjoyed.
Thank
I
you, Miss
really
Evelyn.
did.
Happy
Right.
birthday,
Thanks,
Lena.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Good day.
you. All right.
Okay,
Y'all take
Happy
care.
bye.
birthday, Lena.
Bye.